Well, hey everybody, welcome to another episode of The Unlock Show. I'm your host, Tracy Wilson. Now, I know you were expecting me to have a guest with me today, and so was I. But unfortunately, our lovely guest, Sarah St. John, is not able to be with us this morning. We were going to be talking all things podcasting with the amazing Sarah, but she'll be back to join us at a later date. Doesn't matter, no big deal. We're going to still talk about the power of podcasting for your business. Why? Well, I might know a thing or two about podcasting or creating your own live show because I've been doing this for almost 2 years now, or a little over 18 months, almost, moving into my second year of doing this entire process. I think I've lost count of how many podcast episodes I have done, up to about 150 odd. So, I figured I'm pretty well versed with how to do this on a regular basis. So why not just make the show go on? Carry on, talk about the topic. Anyway, her and I were going to have a fantastic conversation about this. Got all my notes ready to go, had a whole bunch of questions I was going to uncover and kind of unlock all the secrets behind how she does her podcast called The Frugalpreneur. But given that she's not here today, we're not going to go down that path. I'm still going to talk about all things podcasting and live show. As you guys know, I absolutely love the platform that we use. StreamYard is my platform of choice, and I use that to create our live show and also all of my podcasting episodes. So what the heck? Why not just talk about it and have a great old conversation with you guys? Robin, the beautiful Robin Helm, is actually telling me, she says, you have 132 episodes. So there you go. After 132 episodes, I've done this, enough times to know what the heck I'm doing. So I'm going to share with you guys, hopefully, some gold nuggets of how to go about this. Now, when I was going to speak with Sarah, I was going to ask her a whole bunch of questions because she talks about how to do this on a shoestring budget, how to be really frugal about what it is that you do. So let's talk about that first and foremost. But before I even get into kind of that whole, the frugal side of things and doing it on a shoestring budget, let's talk about why we should do this and what the power of creating either an online show or a podcast has for you and your business. You've heard me talk a lot before about creating an opportunity for you to build your influence and your authority. And in doing so, you need to be seen, you need to be heard, you need to be able to create great content that resonates with your audience, and that you need to understand who the heck is the audience that you are going to be speaking with. Because if you're not speaking, if you don't understand who your audience is, it's highly unlikely that you're going to be able to create content that actually resonates with them and provides them with the value that they are looking for. So my first and foremost tip for anybody, whether you're creating a live show or you're creating a podcast, is to do your homework first. I didn't get this prepared, but I certainly can for after the show. I've actually got a show planner document that I'd like to give you guys for free. You can just enter your email details and you'll be able to get a copy of my show planner. But basically that show planner enables you to think through the process, think through who your audience is and who you want to speak to and what your message is and how frequently are you going to be, doing your podcast or your live show, et cetera, et cetera. So you really get an opportunity to take a step back and think about why do you even want to create your own show or your own podcast in the first place? It goes without saying that I've already mentioned the fact that it helps you to increase your influence and your authority for sure. It helps to position you as an expert in your industry by enabling you to basically, share your value, share what you know, your knowledge, your expertise, etc. And it gives people the opportunity to see who you are, before they buy anything from you. Showing up and doing a podcast or doing a live show in my case really helps to kind of peel back the layers, unveil, take the curtain away so that people get to actually see who you are in a very natural environment. Now, a lot of podcasters would go down the path, and I'm sure this is where Sarah would have gone too, is that, you create your podcast, you're understanding who your audience is, you're coming up with your content topics, and then you're recording them. Most of them do them pre-recorded. And, I've been down that path. Personally, that doesn't fit well with me or my personality. I'm not real good with the scripted stuff. You need only watch some of my adverts to determine that I really don't like the whole scripted thing. I much prefer the free form, free flow, just, off the bat, maybe prepare a little bit, but just be able to speak about what I know rather than being very, very scripted. Whereas with a lot of podcasters, they prefer to go down the very scripted path and then actually edit what they do after they've recorded it. In my view, and this is what I found for myself personally, and also with a lot of my clients, when I tried to go down that path in the past, so prior to doing 132 episodes of the Live Unlock show, I tried to go down the path of creating my own podcast, recording it, editing it, so on and so forth. But for me and the amount of time that I had, it just did not fit well with me because it was just way too time consuming. And that is a message that I've heard from a lot of my clients too, because nowadays I actually help people create their own live shows, help them brand it, come up with their messaging, so on and so forth. So a lot of them now find that by doing a show like this, that is, let's just call it unlocked, with the curtain pulled back, where you can just really be yourself without having to be, let's say, perfect with everything. They find this a much easier process to do. Once you learn, there are some very simple, I suppose, systems and processes that you need to understand, and need to understand how to use the camera and a few other bits and pieces that I actually teach a lot of my students. So they love to go ahead and create their own show in this format because it takes away a lot of the technical headache. When you understand and you know what systems to use, it removes all of that, and it removes the amount of cost and the time associated with editing and trying to get everything perfect. Most people, when they go down that path of trying to do a pre-recorded podcast, they get stuck in the procrastination phase of perfectionism, and they're trying to do everything perfectly, and it just takes way too much time. So this type of format tends to appeal to a lot of people because there's a lot less preparation with it. Once you understand and you kind of have a rhythm and a routine with how you prepare yourself for your live show, once you've got that down pat, you can just kind of switch on the camera and go, like I had to today. You guys would have noticed that today's show was running a little bit late. That was because I was waiting for my guests to arrive. They didn't arrive. So what do? Do you cancel your show? Heck no, you don't. You talk about what you know. And because of the way in which the shows are designed, they're designed to have guests on them that actually have a similar level of knowledge that you do. You know about the subject matter so that you're actually able to interview them in a very knowledgeable way. So that really meant that today, even though Sarah was not able to be here on today's show, it didn't really matter. No panic, no, oh my God, what the heck am I going to do? I don't know about this topic. It doesn't really matter. I could still jump on and speak about the topic at hand, which is the power of podcasting for your business, and or in my case, live streaming or doing a live show. Now, you might be wondering, how the heck do I turn the likes of a live show like this into a podcast? And this was actually another reason why I went down this path. Again, when I was thinking about doing my podcast, and I thought about it for a long time and sat in that procrastination space, and I thought about, gosh, I've just got to get it right. So many people are telling me I've got to do this editing, so on and so forth. And, I've got to do these bump in and bump outs and intros and extras and all sorts of fancy things to try and get my show up and running. It didn't kind of happen. And then trying to create, the content for that, I then started to think about, well, if I've got a podcast, what else could I use that podcast for? And most of you would be familiar with the podcasting, with the nature of a podcast being audio only. So of course you can take that podcast and you can turn it into, you've got the audiograms, you can turn it into other pieces of social media content. You could potentially transcribe that and turn it into your blog and so on and so forth. Now that gave me some leverage. But then when I started to think about, well, if I could actually do a live show instead of creating a podcast, what are the potential opportunities would come from that? So of course I still have the opportunity. I've got now video, which I wouldn't have been able to do if I had just created a podcast in and of itself. I can't get video out of that. So creating a show gives me video, which I now can chop up into multiple little different pieces of content. And by the way, out of every single unlock show that I do, I usually get about 50 pieces of content. So there's a very specific process, which I call the Omni content formula, that I take the show and I'm able to dissect it up into lots of little different snippets of information that I can now use for my social media. Again, if I backpedal a little bit and I talk about, prior to me thinking about doing a show or doing a podcast, I was also in the realm of, gosh, I've got to create a whole lot of content for social media. That honestly sends you into a bit of a tailspin, trying to figure out what the heck should I post, how much time do I have, so on and so forth. It was just taking a lot of time. And we all know what happens when things take a lot of time or they become difficult. They just don't get done. So I knew for me, I had to find a way that was highly leveraged, that fitted with my personality, that meant that I was able to do it I could do it at the click of a fingers, basically, a click of a few buttons, and I could be live, and that it enabled me to be live in multiple different places all at once. So if you're watching the show right now, then you may or may not know this, but whatever platform you are on, I'm also streaming on about 6 other platforms all at the same time. So it gives me a lot of coverage and a lot of leverage that I just wouldn't have been able to get just by using a podcast alone. The other beautiful thing about the show, as like I said, it gets chopped up into 50 different little bits and pieces, but it also gets turned into a podcast. So what's the cool thing about this? I can download the show. I get the audio version. I cut off the, any sort of silent pieces that I don't want within the show. And I can actually take the audio of this and it becomes my podcast. That podcast then gets distributed out to multiple different channels. So we're talking Apple, iTunes, Stitcher, iHeartRadio. There's a whole bunch of about 20 different platforms that I now can take this one show and have that distributed after the fact to multiple different podcast platforms. Just gives me a whole lot more leverage and opportunity that I potentially wouldn't have had if I had just gone down the path of podcasting. Now let's get to the point of like the power of, right? So the power of podcasting or the power of doing your own show. So first and foremost, you heard me talk about the fact that you get to, show your wares, you get to talk about your skills, your expertise. People get to see that, as it happens, they get to see me talking about stuff live. But secondly, it increases your influence and your authority. It enables you to create a whole bunch of content. Usually my team, it takes them about an hour after I've done a show to like render the show out and then turn it into multiple pieces of content. So somewhere between, which we spend about an hour to 2 hours a week on the show, turning it into other pieces of content so that it is highly leveraged. It becomes a very simple process, but it's also a repeatable process. It's something that we've set up a system for. It's a rinse and repeat system, and you just do it consistently week in, week out. One of the things that I, and of course, that power of podcasting also gives you exposure, and it enables an entry point for somebody to continue to want to do further business with you. So in most cases, our clients, like with people that I work with, and we help them create their own show. What they're finding is they create their own show. They then get to dial in and be very clear on what their message is. Most of them tell me that, oh my God, I've now got absolute clarity about what it is that that I'm doing, who it is that what I'm about, what I stand for, etc., etc. And they have a way that they've built themselves what we call an anchor platform to be able to share their message on a regular basis. The other thing that this does, and I would encourage you to do this. So it doesn't matter whether you're doing a live show or you're doing a podcast, you must get it into your diary. You've got to treat it like it's a division of your business, and it's as if you are creating your own broadcasting channel or network. And when you think about it in that manner, it means that you're going to show up. It means that as if you were, going to be on channel 7 or channel 9 or channel 10, whatever, and you had a specific day and a time that you were due to go live. That's the time of your show. So whatever show you watch on television, you want to treat it like that at 7 p.m. every night you watch whatever your favorite show is. You want to think about your podcast and your live show in that manner. When you think about it like that, it means that you are more likely to actually have it scheduled in and you won't miss it. Consistency is the key with this, is making sure that you get it in your diary and you do it week after week after week after week. Now, one of the other questions I often get is people will say to me, how often should I do my podcast, or how often should I go live? My recommendation to most people is you do it as, a minimum once a week. Why? Because that gives you the opportunity to get that consistency. You get it in your diary. It happens every single week. If you can and time permits, then I would recommend that you go twice a week. The next question that I often get is, what the heck am I going to talk about? So if I'm going to create my show, what sort of topics should I be speaking about? And like I mentioned at the beginning of today's show, I mentioned to you that I have this document called the Show Planner. When you utilize that particular document that I will put into the comments after today's show so you can go and download it. But when you use that document, it really does help you to think through, what should my show be about? Who will my audience be? What sort of things do they want to hear about? So you can really get to delve deep into that. And once you do, inside of the programs that I teach, I then teach people how do you then create up to 250 pieces of content. So coming up with different ideas. So you come up with like your high level topics that you're going to talk about, and then you're going to start dissecting them down and start talking about topics within the topic. And when you do that, that just gives you a really nice basis and a platform and a tool to be able to go back to if and when you draw a blank. Nothing worse than getting to a day and thinking, oh my God, I've got to do a podcast or a show today. What the heck should I talk about? Because then you get wound up. And I know this too, because I'm speaking from experience. Prior to doing this entire process, you get inside of your own head and you start overthinking things and wondering, should I really be talking about that topic? Is my audience really going to enjoy it? So you get to do a bit of research by utilizing this document I'm going to give you. And then that enables you to build a really solid platform for you to be able to continue to build your podcast or your show upon. Now, a couple of other questions that I had here for Sarah. So let's just cover these today, hey? So one of the things that she says is that you should have a website. So a lot of people also ask, do I need to really have a website if I'm doing a podcast? And I'm pretty sure I don't know the answer that Sarah would have come up with, and I will explore that later down the track when we have her back on the show. But here's my advice. The advice is yes. You want to create your own a website that really does showcase you. We call this your Hive platform. So if you think about this, or your Hive website, you think about, a hive, a honeybee hive where the queen bee is, and all of the worker bees go back to that hive. You're creating your hive so that your audience, your people, your followers can go to that one place. They can go to the hive and they can see what you are about. They can meet the queen, or the queen bee, which is in your case you, and you showcase what you're about. You showcase your products. You showcase what you stand for, what you believe in. You give away your free stuff. You also host your podcast and or your live show on there. And what you can do is create your website, which has a specific page for each individual episode. Again, there's some real benefits in doing that from a targeting or a retargeting perspective when you're using the likes of Facebook for advertising, etc. But I'll hold that for a completely different show, because that could go quite deep. But anyway, my advice is, yes, you do want to create that. What is my platform of choice that I use? You guys now, if you've been following me for a little while, you probably know that I'm the owner of the brand Usability, which is a website and funnel building platform. I create all of my websites, all of my funnels, all of my memberships using Usability. And if you're an Unlocked Show listener, you can actually go to Usability, get a 14-day free trial, but also use the code UNLOCKED to give yourself a 10% discount on the annual and monthly fees. So they're very affordable. So go and check those out. Have a look at the 14-day trial. And you can, there's actually I've created a template in there specifically for podcast and show hosts. So go and grab that template and customize it to your liking and start utilizing that to put your podcast on. As I also mentioned right at the beginning of today's show, my personal favorite platform for creating my podcast is Buzzsprout. I love that platform because it's just really easy to use. It makes syndicating across multiple different channels much easier. You're able to do that right from the Buzzsprout platform. So I would encourage you guys to go ahead and use those and use create your own podcast website. If you just want to use, just have a generic podcast website without anything else other than your podcast on it, Buzzsprout actually does allow you to create your own custom URL for your podcast where you can find all of your podcast episodes. But I tend to create my own website. So it's tracymwilson.com, as you can see on the screen right now. And you can go to that and you can also listen to my podcast directly from my website. So I just take the embed code from Buzzsprout, pop that onto my website, which makes it super easy for me to be able to share my website in the future. What do I think? One of the questions that Sarah had here is, what do I think the future of podcasting is? And I want to talk about this in the sense of, what is my thoughts on both podcasting and live streaming? I think they are absolutely here to stay. I mean, history tells us this is not new, really. It might be relatively new in the scheme of entrepreneurs using this space, but television and radio have been around for decades now. They are not going anywhere. And in my opinion, what do most people do of a nighttime? Most people will sit in front of the goggle box and they will watch the television. So or if you think about it, do they watch TV or do they listen to the radio of the nighttime? Most watch television, right? And why do they do that? Because they're looking for information, entertainment. We now call this edutainment, is what we would call it, when you're doing your own show. But most people are doing that. So in my opinion, again, I think the future is right here with live streaming, is doing your own live show, creating your own anchor platform, and enabling people to see who you are and recognize this, not just the sound of your voice, but actually what you look like, which is also very beneficial. Because I don't know about you, I've been out and about and people have recognized me. Oh, I watch your show. So, people do tend to watch and they do recognize you. So I would highly recommend, personally, I'm a big fan of live show over podcasting because it creates both. I can kill two birds with one stone, so to speak. I can have my live show and the podcast at the same time. Let me have a look at this. So I'm just also looking at some of the other questions that I had for her. One of the things that also Sarah talks about is like why podcasting is the new blogging or is the new website. If you think about it now, I saw on television the other night, there was an advert. It was coming up on the show 60 Minutes, and it was talking about how people are damaging their hearing because they've got either headphones on or earbuds in their ears more often than not. And it was talking about the impacts, the negative impacts of that. Well, that just goes to show you how people are actually consuming information. They are dialing in, they are watching on their mobile devices, they are listening on a regular basis. And if you can turn your show into both a visual and as well as just an audio that is across all the platforms that people want to have access to at their fingertips, then it makes you more accessible. The more accessible you are, the more likely it is that people are going to find you, continue to follow you. You build the likability and the trustability factor, and then they're more likely to want to do business with you down the track. Now, I'm going to wrap today's show up, but I wanted to let you guys know that in the next little while, because this is kind of, sometimes I really do think things happen for a friggin' reason, right? The fact that Sarah wasn't able to come at the last minute to today's show just meant that I was able to do a solo show, but it also means that I'm able to share with you guys what's coming up. I'm going to have a brand new workshop coming out over the next couple of weeks where I'm going to be teaching people. I haven't built it all yet, so bear with me, but I'm just pulling everything together to make sure that it is absolutely awesome, because I want to have as many people as I possibly can actually create their own live show in 2022. So if we can do this before Christmas and get you guys, get you off the ground and your shows launched, then you can start using the power of both podcasting and live shows leading into 2022. And I may even have some of my students that I've been working with over this last, my mentees over the last year, on the show in the coming months to actually share with you the impact that they've had. And I can honestly say that those guys that I have watched over the last year create their own show, doing their thing and doing it amazingly well, the transformations that they have had. You've heard me talk about this before, about the transformation that you get simply by showing up and speaking, off the cuff often, like I have today. This is not as much as I had some notes prepared for Sarah. Certainly didn't have a show prepared to go solo on my own. So you just kind of roll with the punches, right? So I'm going to share that with you guys in the coming weeks. Head on over to Tracy M. Wilson on Facebook. Follow me there so that you can keep up to date with what's going on. And when I bring out this next workshop, it'll only be $27. You guys can come. You can see the power of creating your own live show and also creating your own podcast. And you too can take advantage of this massive opportunity in 2022. All right, guys, I want to say thank you very much for watching today. I will be back in touch with Sarah and we'll get her rescheduled to be on the Unlock show sometime real soon. And we'll get her views on, what does she think about the future of podcasting and what difference has it actually made to her and her business. All right, guys, have a fantastic week and I'll be back again with another episode of the Unlock show next week. I'm Tracy Wilson. Bye for now.